My name is Abby Crawford. I work for Sketchfab. I'm a community manager. I learned yesterday that I would be doing this talk, so my apologies if it's not as smooth or as polished as any of us would like it to be. So today I'm going to talk to you about what Sketchfab can do for you. How many of you have ever been on Sketchfab? A good number. Okay, so you're at least a little bit familiar with what is Sketchfab and what the concept is. All right, well, in that case, I will start with a high-level overview, and then we'll start kind of drilling down into some of the details of our features and the different ways that Sketchfab can be used. And then afterwards, I'm open to any questions, or if you want to get my business card and connect with me afterwards, that's totally fine too. So let's dive into it. Sketchfab is sort of a natural progression of media sharing on the internet. So, originally we could share images, we could share sound files, we could share videos, and now we can share 3D in real time and see 3D the way that it was meant to be seen. One of the great things about Sketchfab is that you can share your 3D anywhere on the internet. You don't just have to direct people to Sketchfab. You can put model embeds on your website. You can put 3D car configurators on your company's website. You can share models in your blog, share models on social media, and share your 3D content anywhere anything can be shared. We support physically based rendering, which can result in very realistic looking models, or you can still make super stylized, hand-painted models look really great too. It's highly customizable. I'll get into some of the details of that. And we support more than 30 file formats, normal 3D file formats. So probably whatever you're working on in your software, we will support that file. And we also auto-convert to GLTF and USDZ, meaning that if you find a file on Sketchfab and maybe it was originally created in Blender and you don't work in Blender, you can download it in USDZ or GLTF and import it into your software of choice, and it'll be usable. So in addition to the things on the last screen, we also have hundreds of integrations with different 3D softwares. And when I say integrations, what I mean is that they're tools created so that you can easily import or export 3D models into or out of your software of choice. So if you're working in Unreal Engine, for instance, you can pull Sketchfab models into Unreal, or you can upload your Unreal scene into Sketchfab super easily without having to leave the space that you're in. And this is a very short list. We have a couple of pages. The links will appear later in the presentation where you can see everything that's integrated. And we have a very diverse community of 10 million people. Many of them are creators. Some of them are just looking for inspiration. Some of them are brands. Some of them are cultural heritage organizations, scientists, students, 3D scanners. It really runs the gamut. And there's a lot to discover and a lot of really neat connections to be made in our community. And then we have over 5 million models, so the largest library of 3D content, about 20% of which can be downloaded either for free or paid through the store. Like I said, it's embeddable everywhere. The viewer is a little bit like if you were to embed a YouTube video somewhere. You can do exactly the same thing with our viewer. So it can go in blogs, it can go on your ArtStation profile, it can go wherever you need it to go. And we also support a wide variety of 3D features. So animation and bones, you can bring in your animated models. We support multiple animation tracks and a variety of types of animation. What you're seeing here with the little phoenix sort of disappearing and going to the bones view, that's our 3D inspector, which I'll talk a bit more about a little later on. But lots of animation support. We support real-time shadows. and lighting for realistic scenes with realistic lighting. Annotations, which can be used a variety of ways. They're one of my favorite things, so I'll probably talk a little bit longer about them than I probably should. But you can use them to show people the particular views of your scene or your model that you want them to see, or you can use them to provide additional contextual information about something, or you can use them to link out to another page or to another model, or to just show an image of the thing in real life so that they can sort of see how close it is to the 3D scan, for instance, in this case. And then we have a number of materials features as well. Sheen refraction and subsurface scattering are just a few of them, but these are all real-time materials effects. And as someone moves the model around, it's dynamic and it changes, and you can really see how great everything looks. So, subsurface scattering is one of my favorites, probably. It makes skin, wax, things like that look really, really excellent. And then we have some post-processing effects, which can add just a little bit of extra polish to your scene. So depth of field kind of gives a nice cinematic look, creates that blurry distance. Screen space reflection creates great reflections of anything that's in the viewport. So not things that are outside of it, but things that are immediately visible. And then screen space ambient occlusion, of course, gives a little bit of feigned depth where there might not be actual depth in the geometry. And this is our 3D editor. So our 3D editor is where you can prepare all of the settings that make your scene look exactly the way that you want it to look. The camera settings, I'll just go through some of these briefly. The camera settings let you pick the field of view, let you limit the camera orbit if you only want people to be able to see certain parts or sides of your model. You can pick from 3 different backgrounds. So you can use an environment background, you can use an image background, or you can use just a solid color background according to your needs. And then in the lighting, if you're using an environment, you can switch the environment according to what you want the look to be. You can also upload your own HDRIs. You can add ground shadows, so creating a sort of fake ground plane that doesn't take any geometry, and that works for animated or static models. And we also support up to 3 lights, and there are different types of lights that you can set. I don't have all of them in my brain right now, but there's a point light, a directional light, I think there might be a sun lamp. If you have any technical questions that I'm not able to answer, our product specialist, James, is at our booth, and he'll be able to help you with anything that I cannot help you with. And then materials, we support metalness and specular workflows. So if you're working in PBR, those are probably what you're working with. And we also have a number of additional channels for different maps. So alpha mask, emission, opacity, anisotropy, clear coat. There are several more. I won't go through them all, but there are several, and so you can add whatever maps you need in there. And then post-processing, you already saw depth of field and the other 2. I'm sorry, I'm also dealing with a little bit of jet lag. So I'm not quite as quick on things as I'd like to be. But things like vignette, chromatic aberrations, sharpness, depth of field, grain, these are all things that you can tweak and adjust as needed so that everything looks just exactly how you want it to. Annotations, I've already told you about those, but you can set camera view for each of the annotations, and you can set whether you want the camera to pivot on that annotation or if you want to have sort of a global pivot. And then animation, Once you upload your model, all the animation tracks will show up in the animation tab, and you can arrange them and tweak the settings on them as you need to. And then AR and VR, which we'll get into a little bit later, you can set the scale and the floor height and the initial viewing position for AR and VR. Our model inspector was one of our most requested features. A lot of people they would see a scene and they would want to know exactly how it was made, and how did they achieve this effect, or what does the geometry look like? And so we created this model inspector where you can go in and you can look at all the different material channels, you can look at the geometry, the mat cap, wireframe, vertices, and that's really great from a couple of standpoints. So if you're just studying models and you just want to know, how does this work? How could I do something similar? It's a great way to see what exactly the setup is. But it's also great if you want to download or purchase a model. You can see that it's exactly what you want it to be before you put it on your hard drive. So that's really great. You can also look at textures. Although the texture inspector has to be turned on or off when you upload a model. So some people may not want you looking at their textures, but if a model is available for download for free or for sale, texture inspection is always on. So, and we have watermarks on the textures so that people can't just screen cap your texture and run away with it. All right, our viewer API is basically a layer on top of our viewer created using JavaScript that lets you customize what people see through the viewer. So you can build interactive apps. We have a community member she's a scientific illustrator, and she created this great app for snail anatomy where you can look at different parts of the snail's anatomy, turn them on and off, and of course, rotate them, zoom in, zoom out, all of that. And then e-commerce configurators. We've had a number of different configurators made. I have a couple that I can show you here today. And this is all done with our viewer API. So it's just the standard Sketchfab viewer with a layer of JavaScript that allows all sorts of customizations. And then our app-free AR and VR support. This is the settings bit. App-free AR is available to premium and up community members, subscribers, and it lets you, once you've uploaded a model, you turn on app-free AR. Anybody can take that model, hit the AR button, and then see that model right in front of them through their phone. If app-free AR is not enabled, that's not possible, but for just about any model, you can see it in AR. And then VR, same thing, but VR is available for any model. And as I said, we're integrated anywhere. So any of the 3D creation tools that you're using, you can directly import the model into Sketchfab, and then once you're ready, go in and adjust all the settings in Sketchfab. And once you're ready to share your work, you can easily share and embed on social networks. You can embed your model on any site, as I said before, view them in VR and AR, and also continue the creative process by importing them into other softwares. So you may create a scan in Reality Capture, upload it to Sketchfab, and then download it into Spark AR, for instance, to make a really cool AR filter for social media. So it can just keep going through the different tools. And we're fully integrated into Epic's ecosystem. So if you make something in Reality Capture, Unreal, or Twinmotion, you can very easily upload it to Sketchfab and then If you see something on Sketchfab that you want, you can very easily bring it into your Unreal project, I'm so sorry, or your Twinmotion project, or embed it on your ArtStation profile. We also work closely with different parts of Epic to expand our creative potential and engage our communities. So this is the Sketchfab in Motion challenge that Twinmotion hosted last month. It just ended, and the concept was to bring a model in from Sketchfab, animate it, and create a cool video. And so you can see some of the wonderful things that their community created with assets from Sketchfab. All right. So the Sketchfab community, as I already said, is jam-packed with people. There are 10 million members: artists, students, scientists, museums, companies, architects, VR and AR creators, just about anybody you can imagine, people you wouldn't expect. They're all on Sketchfab. And we have Sketchfab for Teams. So are any of you familiar with Sketchfab for Teams? No? Okay. So Sketchfab for Teams is our 3D content management system. It's available for premium and enterprise users, and it's basically just a great way to collaborate if you're working on a project with multiple people, regardless of whether they have any 3D knowledge or not. Say you're creating something for a commercial and you have marketing and you have, who else makes commercials? The marketing department. You need to deal with the marketing department. They need to see what you're doing. So you can create a project for this commercial, and you can put all your 3D assets there, and you can kind of concept it out, write descriptions, and add comments on things, iterate on models. And really importantly, you can control different roles. So if you just want somebody to be able to see things, but not necessarily download them or look at the stats on the models or anything like that, you can set them as a spectator, for instance. And so that's a really flexible way to collaborate effectively and make sure that nothing's leaking out where you don't want it to leak out. You can also comment on models and add annotations. So the structure for it is projects, and then there are folders within projects so that you have an easy way to organize, like 2022 furniture collection, living room, dining room, bathroom, and kind of work from there. And of course, it's the same 3D viewer and 3D editor that is on the rest of the site. It's possible to search within Sketchfab for Teams. So you can search by who uploaded a model, what file format a model is, how many polygons it has, whether it's private or public, things like this. And you can also view, we just launched analytics, so that lets you see where people are viewing your model and how often they're taking a look at it. And you can also download the models in USDZ or GLTF. So even if you're just looking for a really simple conversion solution, upload your model to Sketchfab, download it immediately in USDZ or GLTF. And these are some of the examples of configurators. So these were all done with the Viewer API. So this is the Mini Cooper configurator. You can look at it, zoom in, change the colors. This was a project by a Denmark-based photogrammetry group called Rigsters, and they did multispectral imaging on this ancient sculpture to see what sort of paint there was on it. And then they created this app, essentially, using the Viewer API so that anybody could take a look at the different maps. And I think they're loading very, very slowly because the internet right now is very, very slow. So sorry about that. We'll try a different one. So this is a project that the BBC did to take people through the tunnels that ISIS was using. And so they used a 3D scan and then essentially set annotation points with descriptive text here. And that allows you to go through a nice simulation of what these tunnels are like. And then this is the Yamaha configurator, and it lets you set a number of different specifications for your model according to what you want, and you can zoom in, turn it around, and then eventually go and send this configuration to a dealer so that they can get you your motorcycle. All right. So there are 3 ways to download content from Sketchfab. We have a library of 900,000, roughly 900,000 models licensed under Creative Commons licenses. So these are free to download. Most of them are Creative Commons attribution models. So if you use it, you just have to provide attribution. Some of them are share-alike or non-commercial or no derivatives. You can select whichever kind of model you want from our search filters. And we also have a library of CC0 models, which have no restrictions on their use at all. You don't have to provide attribution. They're, I want to say 100% from cultural heritage organizations, so museum pieces that they want to make available to the public. And they're great. We provide the text for the attribution, so that's super easy. You don't need to overthink it or worry about whether you're doing it right. You just copy paste. And you can download in any number of formats, the original format, USDZ, GLTF, and now also GLB, which is a lot more optimized for example, game work. And then our store, we have roughly 60,000 models in our store, and they are high quality, royalty-free, no attribution required. They fall under 2 license types. There's standard and editorial, and you can inspect them all. It's the great thing about the Sketchfab store is you can check the geometry, check the textures, make sure that everything is what you want before you buy it. And the creators of the models get 88% of the cost. So we have a low commission rate of 12%. I think it's one of the lowest in the industry. So we really like to see our creators thriving and making that money. And then, of course, as previously mentioned, the importer integrations. So you can, these are examples from Spark AR, Unity, Substance, and Unreal of just using a search bar to find a 3D model and pull it into your project. Super easy, seamless, great way to put a project together. So, in sum, Sketchfab is a great way to publish and share your 3D content. It's a great way to create configurators and customizable model embeds. It's a great way to find content either for free or from the store that you can include in your projects. And it's a great way to collaborate in a team with Sketchfab for Teams.